There are many different kinds of databases. These include books, libraries, museums, and musical scores. This is my story of working with a non-digital database. The original database was a cassette tape of Kurt Schwitters' original recording of his Ursonate from the 1930s. If you want to use the term from generative art, you can call the tape the seed of the visualized sound poem. As there was no previous score of the musical patterns used by Schwitters, I developed the elements in this recording to create a handmade score, including Schwitters' pitch levels and note values incorporated into a typical Western notation system. I then expanded the score database to analyze the German phonemes that Schwitters used as words in his sound poem. The mandala image of the Ursonate, seen here, is from a performance Kristen Lurie and I made in a digital dome. This is the only format where one can see the entire painting without moving around. I needed an actual performance because the only score available was what this visual poem commissioned by Schwitters to Jan Schishold, a Swiss typography. This score offers very little information to the performer, no tempo, pitch, or dynamic notation. However, Schwitters does give supplemental information of the performance practice in his writing called Explanation of the Symbols. Here are the most important points in the explanation of symbols from Schwitters' writing, seen here in German. The letters used are to be pronounced as in German. As in the case with any notation system, many interpretations are possible. As with any reading act, imagination is required to read correctly. The reader himself has to work seriously if he really wants to read. Work improves the reader's receptivity much more than questions or thoughtless criticism. Only he who has understood everything has the right to criticize. It is better to hear the sonata than to read it. I was looking for a performance that I could use for my visualization. In the early 90s, my friend Michel Weiswisch, then the director of STIME in Amsterdam, offered me a stolen copy of Kurt Schwitters vocalizing the complete Ursonate. And then I sent a copy to Kurt's son Ernst Schwitters, who was a professional photographer. He dedicated his life to taking care of his father's work as best he could. Quote, "Dear Ms. Ox, miracles do seem to happen, even if not very often. How was I to know that a recording of the entire Ursonate by my father existed somewhere, only not with us? And what amount of trouble and unpleasantness this has caused me over the years." This information was also sent to Peter Hanser Straker, head of Bischoff Verlag and Verbo Schallplatten, and he published the Ursonate as a CD that you can buy today. Fums bevetet seu pagif quie. I used in my visualization what I now call cognitive space transfers. These are landscape images and drawings of Schwitters' own installation works that recall what he was seeing and or thinking about during his Ursonate creative time. The image on the screen is my pencil drawing of Kurt Schwitters' Märzbau, his famous three-dimensional collaged room-sized installation. I made the drawing from 3 existing 1930s photographs. The colors were remembered by Ernst and given to Peter Bissiger for his reconstruction of the Märzbau, one permanently in the Sprengel Museum and the other travels with Schwitters' exhibitions. I used this image for the most important theme of the first of the Ursonate because it was created during the same decade and has the same importance in his legacy. Each syllable comes from its own specific vertical position, the actual place determined by the pitch Kurt Schwitters has used, and the scale is determined by the dynamic value at which he spoke it. These images that are cut into small pieces representing specific syllables become subliminal information about Schwitters' cognitive space. De zin r-i-a empif telfto tel you ka. All of the landscapes used have been documented as places where Kurt Schwitters spent some time. The first 2 movements are in Norway, and the last 2 are in the Lake District in England. Notice the cross-sensory association between the theme written above and the shapes contained within the landscape images. V.S. Ramachandran, a cognitive neuroscientist at the University of California, San Diego, has shown this through the Bubu-Kiki experiment, that sounds have corresponding visual shapes. When I put the themes together with their drawings, I was intuitively working with this principle. Rumpf-Tilf-Toe. I shot the photograph of this landscape from Mulda, where Schwitters had his summer cottage, at 10:30 p.m. on the longest day of the year, June 21st. This was one day after Kurt Schwitters' birthday. This image was Xeroxed onto Mylar, both forwards and backwards, so that I could alternate between 1/4 inch painted pieces in order to map the structure of a running, trilled rrrr, as seen in the bluish sections of the painting on the screen. Oh, Theme 6 is actually a part of Movement 2, however, figures prominently at the beginning of the sonata. Lankertergel, pe, oka, 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 oka. This bridge is in Kurt Schwitters' almanac, edited by Michael Erlhoff and Ute Brandes. Kurt had made a painting of it that was published in the almanac. P, zuka, 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 zuka. Grim, glim, gnim, bim, bim. Notice the curves in the fences pictured here in England. They look like the G's in the theme, as if they were mapped to the landscape. Tilla lola lula lola and tella lala tella lala. This wall was built in the Merzbaum, still standing as Schwitters left it in 1948 when he died. It is in a remote woodland in the Langdale Valley in Cumbria, northwest England, near the edge of Elterwater. The wall itself was removed in 1965 and taken to the University of Newcastle's Hatton Gallery in order to save it from crumbling. In 2006, with a major funding award, the Littoral Arts Trust acquired the Merzbaum and are working to restore it. Tata, tata, twiye, twiye. I was lying on the ground and photographed up at the trees by the barn in the woods of Elterwater. Gra, gra. This is the same waterfall from below and above in the Norwegian high mountains. Z, upsilon x, VVU, TSRQ, PNMM, LKIH, GFA, DCB. My alphabet theme image comes from the shack, also called a Merzbaum by scholars, on the island of Hirtoya, off the coast of Mulda, where Schwitters lived during many summers. It now houses a fishery museum. Schwitters covered the walls and door with collage. It is these that I have drawn and used for the theme when he recites the German alphabet 4 times in reverse in the finale. Kai Schoenberg, a percussion student with perfect pitch in the Köln Musikhochschule at the time I was living there, notated the pitches and rhythmic values of Kurt's performance. I studied phonetics at the University of Cologne's Phonetic Institute, where Angela Fuster-Duran collaborated with me on the analysis and transcribed with me the sounds into the International Phonetic Alphabet, which you can see on the lines above the music. Here is one page of 60 painting scores, which incorporates the musical and phonetic information of the Ursonate. The solid colors are pauses in Schwitters' performance, with a deeper color indicating long pauses and lighter valued colors representing short breaths. The fragments between the colors are an inverse of Kurt Schwitters' pitch movement because they are reversed when put into final rectangular format. This slide shows my treatment of consonants. Consonants are realized through internal image manipulation. The manner of articulation for plosives, fricatives, and trills can be seen in different cuts and or separate color inserts and the turning around of images. Voiced consonants are distinguished from voiceless ones by opposing directions of cuts. The The place of articulation of plosives can be seen through the location of the cutting point. The voiceless plosives are cut vertically, and the right side is upended, while voiced consonants are cut horizontally with the upper portion turned around. Approximates or vowels that stand alone in a syllable have no internal cuts. You can see fricatives in the beginning as I read. Fums, bovete, se u, pogif, kriye. All vocalic information is expressed through the glazing system that was used for harmonic movement and qualities in my earlier visual music paintings. The 16 vowel sounds from the German language are arranged in a logical chart that visually show how and where they are produced in the oral cavity. The front of the oral cavity is on the left and the back of the throat is on the right side. I created a color chart which corresponds to this vowel chart. Unrounded vowels come from the warm side of the color wheel, whilst rounded vowels come from the cool side. Vowels made with the tongue in a high position are warmer than vowels made with a low position tongue. Therefore, E is a greenish yellow and A is an orangish yellow. Both of these unrounded vowels are therefore come from the warmer list of colors. Vowels produced in the front of the mouth are a pure hue. As the location of production moves backwards, there is an ever-increasing percentage of a complementary hue, which is glazed in a separate layer. Diphthongs slide between two colors as the sounds slide between two vowels. We will now hear a snippet of Schwitters reciting the first line of upcoming slides. The first movement, then the second, the scherzo, ending with Schwitters reciting the top of the fourth movement.
Fums, bövetet, seu, pögif, krie. Lanketurgel, pe, oka, Lanketurgel, pi, tuka, Lanketurgel, rump, Lanketurgel, tiolen, trullum. Grim, glim, gnim, bim, bim, 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 bum, 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 bim, bim, grim, glim, gnim, 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 bim, bim.
This is a special contribution made by my friend and fellow artist, Mario G. Alberico. He has taken one of my scores for the visualization and made it grow. It is a further example of generative art. And here I must tell you that the Ursonate is for sale. When it sells, Intermedia Projects will be able to fund our project, Legacy of Artist Scientists Online Archive and Educational Center. I'm happy to talk to you about all of this later. We will go out with Kristen Laurie reciting the scherzo with my animated segments.
Lanketurkel, pe, oka, lanketurkel, pi, tuka, lanketurkel, rump, runf. Lanketurkel, zielen, trill, lumf, tumf, trill. Lanketurkel, rop, til, to. Lanketurkel, zielen, trill, lumf, tumf, trill. Lanketurkel, pe, oka, lanketurkel, pi, tuka, lanketurkel, rump, runf. Lanketurkel,